Join us on BCCTV for a new series titled Community Circle.
It's diversity, resilience, and the spirit of community.
You know, who has inspired you and why their story is important.
Person is supposed to be sitting in the bus and have a white person.
I think that you should say that because I'm thinking of Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Welcome to Community
Hello
Circle.
viewers, how you all doing? My name is Ukela Prince and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Community Circle. And like you know, this Community Circle is a brand new program here in the Black Community Canada TV where we are able to discuss community issues and matters. And we have the opportunity to also host, our community leaders. We have opportunity to host community families that are making great impact, and to make sure that what our voices in the community is being heard. So thank you for joining us today. Today I have a very handsome, beautiful man with me in the studio. Now this man, I'm going to read his bio a little to you. So he is the leader of the United Progressive Party of Canada. He's the founder and the leader of this party. I won't tell you his name yet, but I think most of you already know. He was born in Jamaica, right? If I'm not mistaken, migrated to Canada from Jamaica 32 years ago. He grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. He maintains that Canada is his home, as he has lived in Canada for almost all his life. So he lives in Mississauga, close by here, where he raised a family. He is an accountant by profession, an author, the founder and the president of One Care Health Services, a business establishment selling medical equipment. He's an accountant and he's also selling medical equipment. Maybe he will tell us why. So I don't know. So he is a Christian, he's a believer who is active in his church and is respectful of all religions. Now, this man supports many charity organizations in Canada. He first ran federal office in 2019. This man has many years of experience working behind the scenes in politics and community involvement. Over the years, he worked in many capacities during elections, for example, as financial agent for the Conservative Party of Canada during the former Prime Minister Stephen Harper's tenure. That's interesting. He also argues that since migrating to Canada, he has voted for all three major political parties, and his support was always based on the issues and not on party's affiliation. He believes that Canadians are seeking a new, more balanced political direction. He said the Conservatives are too conservative and the Liberals are too liberal. Interesting. On this premise, he said he has founded the United Progressive Party of Canada. It will adopt the best of conservatism and liberalism, he said, combined with our core values to govern Canada. The United Progressive Party of Canada will always put Canadians first. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me the one and only Carlton, Darby.
Thank you, sir.
Oh my goodness. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Nice having you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. A long CV there and your bio that I just read,
right.
And it's so loaded with quite a lot of things you have said.
Right.
And let me not start because I know you have quite a lot to share with us today.
Right.
And let me say happy Black History Month because this is the month February.
Right.
I've been declared, and in that mood, and also so one or two things we'll be talking about Black history and also your ambition as Prime Minister, for the next election.
Right.
Okay. So let's tell us first and foremost about your life in your life in your country of birth. Can you give us, let's have a dive into that.
Sure. So I am Carlton Darby and grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, in a very depressed part of town. In fact, Where I grew up in Jamaica is a place called Rima. Rima is adjacent to Trenchtown, and that's where Bob Marley was raised.
Oh, really?
Yes. Right.
Are you related to Bob Marley?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I am not.
So we would have requested that you give us a reggae song here, man.
I know. I know.
Are you not a singer?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
he's
not a
not.
singer.
Almost all Jamaicans are singers. Okay.
I know, but yeah, so my early childhood, I was raised primarily by my grandmother, and I've traversed Trenchtown, Rima, Denhamtown. I went to Tivoli Gardens Comprehensive High School, and during my time after leaving school, I worked for a company, a government agency called the Institute of Jamaica, and then I moved to another government entity called Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC. After there, I migrated to Canada.
Wow.
I was early 20s. So I've lived most of my time here in Canada, and as such, Canada is my home.
Wow. Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. I was, a few days ago, you had an event, which was the official launch
Right.
of the party. So can you give us, can we hear, one or two, what really happened? How was it? And
absolutely, but let me just add one thing to my earlier statement, that I have always been in politics from a tender age, especially growing up in a place called Rima. It was very, very polarized politically in Jamaica. So my ex-wife worked in the office of the Prime Minister when the Prime Minister at that time was Edward Seaga, which most people think he's a polarizing figure as well. And I had the opportunity to literally observe this man run a country from behind the scene. Now, as I said, I believe I've been to Parliament. I sit in the gallery. I listen to speeches that he made. And one thing I admire about this former Prime Minister, he was very meticulous. And he's a man that wanted to do good. And he worked hard. With respect to our party, the United Progressive Party of Canada, we officially launched 2 Sundays ago in Toronto. However, the United Progressive Party of Canada is really a name change. So we were formerly the United Party of Canada, where we were approved by Elections Canada as a federal political party in 2019. We contested the 2019 elections, and we fielded 4 candidates. And I like to say that we spent about $20,000 in that election, and we spent nothing. $20,000 for 4 candidates is nothing. So I say we spend nothing, so we got nothing. The party that won that election was the Liberal Party. They spent over $60 million.
60 million.
Right. So needless to say that this time around, we have to spend.
You guys spent about 20 million or 20,000?
Sorry?
Your party spent 20,000?
20,000 in the 29.
Not million.
Not million. 20,000.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's for 4 candidates. So what I'm saying is that politics is about money and and it's about the amount of money that you can spend to get your message out. And we intend to get our message out this time. We believe that we have a strong message, and it's gonna be going right across Canada.
Okay, and I would have said maybe for me that in place of money, more of ideology. But ideology without money I think that's also a big problem, right?
It does.
Okay, now before you come in, viewers, I saw a post, and in that post I saw the Honorable Carlton, with the first black speaker of the House of Representatives, currently.
Right.
Yeah. And they're the first black Supreme Court judge in Ontario.
Right.
And I saw we can make history.
Yeah.
Carlton, tell us what's happening.
So I am excited to talk about this. I met Greg Fergus, who is the first black Speaker of the House in 158 years. The first black Speaker of the House. It has never happened before. But what is interesting to me, Reverend Prince, with respect to
Pastor Prince.
with respect to my reading of Canadian politics. Canada first election was 1867.
1867.
And from 1867 to present, Canada have seen 23 prime ministers. Only 23 prime ministers. Canada have seen 13 conservative governments and 10 liberal governments. So, for the first time in 158 years, we have a black Speaker of the House. For the first time in 158 years, we have a premier, Indigenous premier, Manitoba. For the first time in 158 years, we have a Chinese mayor, Olivia Chow. And to a lesser extent, for the first time in 157 years, we have a lady, she's of Jamaican heritage as well. She ran in a place called Southgate. Southgate is 30 minutes north of Barrie. And for all those who know Barrie, we know the more north we go, is the more white we go. She ran in a place called Southgate, 99.9% Caucasian Canadians. And she won. She won. The record will show she even got more votes than the guy who ran for mayor. So what am I saying? The time is now.
The time is now.
The time is now. The demographic, people are not looking at, I believe in Canadians. I honestly believe in Canadians. And I do not think that as a leader of this relatively new political party, we have a name change. I do not believe that Canadians, well-thinking Canadians, is going to eliminate this party based on the leader, based on the color of the skin of the leader. They're going to look at the substance and what we intend to bring to the table. And we'll talk about what we intend to bring to the table.
Okay. Before we get there, okay. Now, this is Black History Month.
Right.
So I would want you to tell us, how do you think Canada can better incorporate Black history into its educational curriculum? And what role do you think you can play in making that happen?
Well, we know that the education curriculum is really a province by province situation. So as Prime Minister, I am not directly in control of provincial matters. However, I do believe that it's important that as black people, we should know about our history. Just like the indigenous people should know more about their history, and maybe and also the Indians. So what I'm saying is that we have to look at the educational system, well, for us, in a holistic way. But not only black education and history, we are missing this whole issue of civic duties in the schools, right? Students now, if you ask a student, what is the role of the Speaker of the House? Or how important is the Speaker of the House?
Yeah.
They do not know. So let me make it clear. Right now, as Craig Fergus being the Speaker of the House, he's third in line in terms of authority of this country. So if God forbid we lose the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, the Speaker House becomes the Prime Minister.
That's right.
And that's the importance of the Speaker of the House, right?
Interesting. It's true. Now, also staying on the Black History Month. Okay, so who are some Black, or do you have some Black Canadian history figures that have inspired you? How do their legacies influence your own ambitions and goals, if you have any?
Absolutely. I'm a student of politics in Canada, and the first two people that would come to mind is Jean Augustine as the first Black woman in Parliament, and the Honorable Alvin Curlin. They have been trailblazers. They were there before me, and they, despite the challenges that they face in those days, and I've spoken to Jean Augustine, and Alvin Curlin is someone that is almost like a mentor, and I talk to them, and they express and they share with me the challenges that they have in those days. So they would be the first two people that comes to mind. I know there are several others, lieutenant governors and all that, and I could go on and on, but definitely the Honorable Jean Augustine and the Honorable Alvin Curlin would be the two people that come to mind.
How is the Black community supporting your aspiration?
Well, Prince, I think they're excited. I believe they're excited.
You believe?
Yes, I believe they're excited. But what I know is that they're tentative. So the tendency, when I go out and speak to people, the tendency is, because what we are doing has never happened before, they don't think it can happen. So my attitude is, and I believe it's Nelson Mandela who says this, is that because something has never happened before doesn't mean it won't happen, right?
Yeah.
There's a first, and we believe that this party, we're going to be the first, and not only the first in Canada. I believe this party, Prince, is going to set a standard that other countries worldwide are going to look at, because I can tell you this: the two parties stronghold is not just in Canada, it's in the US, it's in the country that I was born, Jamaica. Only two parties. And the question is why? Why? Only two parties. So there's a famous raider personality in Jamaica, a man by the name of Mutty Perkins, and he summarized the stronghold of two parties worldwide as this: as much as how the public look at the two main parties going at each other throat, whenever a new party, and I don't want to talk about third party, whenever there's a new party on the scene, and if they pose a threat to the system and the status quo, the two main parties do secretly crush any new party that come along. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so it means, so do you believe, or do you think there are any barriers for new political parties competing in the federal election?
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for this question. Because what I'm going to say with respect to barriers is something that has weighed heavily on my mind. And as I share with my team, is that if we, as a relatively new party, do not debunk these barriers, it's going to maintain, and the barriers alone will cause us defeat. So let us look at barrier number one. Even on the Elections Canada website, they talk about third party. So My question to all those people who look at us as a third party, if we're a third party, or if the NDP, so to speak, is a third party, then who is the first party? who is the second party? One person just tried to justify to say, well, the first party is a party in government and the second party is a party. No, we are all parties. We're all federal parties, or we're all provincial parties. There are no separation in terms of the party. There is no first party. There is no second party or third party. Absolutely, we are not a third party. No one, I don't know about anyone getting into a race to run third. That's the myth number one that we have to debunk. The second one, and I get this all the time, where, and especially when I'm speaking to people in the black community, they say to me, but you were never born in Canada. How you want to be the Prime Minister? And I said, well, first and foremost, I'm a Canadian citizen.
Honorable, please, let's hold it there. Viewers, I know you want to hear what Honorable Carlton has to say about this, but we're going to a little break, so we'll be right back.
Sure.
Thank you. See you soon, guys.
Sure.
This is Community Circle.
All right, viewers, welcome back. This is still the Community Circle, and I still have with me here in the studio the one and only Carlton Darby. Carlton, thank you.
Thanks.
So you were on a line of thought before we went on break. So can you proceed?
So as I was saying, Prince, that, when they asked me about, how you would want to be Prime Minister of Canada, you weren't born in Canada. And I said, well, I'm a Canadian citizen for over 30 years. And this is not the US. You don't have to be born in Canada to be the Prime Minister of Canada. In fact, a lot of people do not know this. There were 4 prime ministers before that were never born in Canada. Our first prime minister, Sir John Macdonald, he was not born in Canada. And John Turner was not born in Canada. 4 previous prime ministers. So there is precedent where that is concerned. You don't have to be born in Canada to be the prime minister of this country. So that's myth number 2. Myth number 3, and is one that I struggle with, so to speak, and this notion that you have to speak French to be the Prime Minister of Canada, and that statement is not true. One, and the issue of French speaking, and I remember, as I said, I worked with the Conservative Party when Stephen Harper was running to become Prime Minister, and I know of times when he would be off the campaign trail just to study French, because he wasn't French speaking either, just to appease and to be able to communicate in French fluently. Now, as I said, this issue of French is a barrier. But I want to tell all the people who are using the language French as a barrier, and the Francophones in particular, right, is that 21% of Canadians are fluent in French. 86% of Canada is in English. The French-English debate is done. People are looking to deal with food on their table. And, I am heartbroken for a particular member of parliament that was eliminated from the Liberal leadership race because he did an interview to the respect that he said that he don't think knowing French is an issue or an important factor for him to have to be the Prime Minister of Canada. And I have heard the fake news media, the CBCs and those guys, I haven't heard them saying anything about it. In fact, I watched the interview that he was doing on CBC, and they were saying how French is an integral part of our politics. Prince, as I said, I'm a student of politics. French only became an official language in 1968, and it was made an official language by Pierre Trudeau. How about having the indigenous languages be our official language? They were the first people here. We should recognize them, and in fact, I would include maybe Creed, or I will speak to them, and they should be a part of this conversation where language is concerned. Okay, so this argument that you cannot win an election if you do not speak French is not true.
So to you, it's not about being able to speak French or not being able to speak French. It's the ideology. What you're bringing to the table.
Absolutely.
What will benefit Canadians
and all. And as I said, Prince, this French debate, like someone pointed out to me that since this prime minister came into power, if you notice, if you call any government department, the government department is French first, because he wants to run a French first country. Communication is about understanding and communicating. Now, if 86% or if over 80% of your people speak and understand English, why a government department would have the French first? You're not reaching people, and because you want people to understand. So, and as I said, the language debate is gone, right? People are looking for, and again, I wanted to make it very clear. This issue of French is just a barrier, and we respect French language. I have a working knowledge of French. 80% of whatever information is on the internet is in English. The language of commerce is English. And I had an experience. In fact, our party, Prince, I have an experience with Elections Canada. And we were having some difficulty communicating with Elections Canada, because it appears that when you speak to someone, the frontline person, it appears as if they have their mother tongue is French. So we have French people in our group. So I have one of our French person calling to communicate in French, and they couldn't understand each other because the French that they were speaking and the French that she was speaking was two different French. They had to get another guy who understand French from a high level, because what they are speaking as French is like Creole. It's not proper French, or you would say proper English.
Sure.
So we got to get away from that, and that is another myth that we have to eliminate.
If what would be your take if we will have an aspirant or a candidate who doesn't speak English and all he speaks is French?
A candidate that doesn't speak English. So you're saying he's French first?
Yes.
Yeah. So how would that now, if your population, if 40 million people in Canada and 30 million people understand English, of the working knowledge.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Then you're not communicating to the masses.
I don't know if you were talking about Frank Bellis, the one you talked about, I had the interview, but I don't know. So, but now I'm looking at Frank Bellis is also one of the Caribbean.
Right.
So who is also vying for the position of the Prime Minister via the Liberal Party.
For the Liberal Party.
So if he becomes the candidate,
right,
out of the 5 that are vying for that position, and he represents the Liberal, you represent the United Progressive Party
of
Canada. So that's a divide. That seems like divided vote for the black community.
Okay.
What would you want to do in that case?
Okay.
Now,
I'm happy.
If you're happy,
go ahead. I was going to say I'm happy that you raised that question. I want to deal with that.
If he approaches you
Yeah.
and wants you to step down, or the black community wants you to step down for him,
Right.
What would you do about it?
Okay. So I'm happy, as I said, thank you for the question, because you raise another question, which is another. I should include it in the myth that we live by.
Okay.
And I believe you're referring to splitting votes,
Yes.
right? I don't understand what these politicians mean when they say split vote. Are they saying? So, for example, I know that as someone of color, the Liberal Party, who believes that all immigrant votes belongs to them, they're thinking that, okay, if this guy is in the race, I'm going to split the vote. So what does that mean? Are they saying that as a Liberal Party, and because they were they were part of the founding parties of this country, they're entitled, so on election day, they're entitled to 10,000 votes. So if I get into the race, I'm going to take away 5,000. That's what they mean by splitting the vote. There's no splitting of vote, my friend. Everyone goes into the election with 0 votes. We all start from 0. Well, supposedly, unless they're stealing the election like they do all the time, we all start from 0. There's no splitting of vote. No party is inherently expected to have any vote, right? There's no splitting of vote.
No, what I'm looking at is
we all start at 0. So to answer your question directly, us being in the race and him, it has no bear. We have no bearing on each other, because people are going to choose the party that they believe is going to support their cause and their needs. So and in fact, what we should be striving towards is to have a better turnout, and that's what we want to do. I read an article that talks about the sleeping majority. And the sleeping majority, because typically in Canada, in most elections, I believe this election will be one of the most consequential elections. And as such, I believe we're going to have a high voter turnout. A high voter turnout will benefit our party. Why I say that? As long as we can raise $25 million to campaign properly, we're going to bring out the sleeping majority. The sleeping majority is not aligned to no Liberal Party, no Conservative Party. They're going to go out and vote for the party who's going to represent their interests. So it's going to be interesting.
okay. Before you talk to us about your manifesto, because I believe Canadians want to hear your manifesto.
Right.
Now, so from what you've said, from my initial question,
right.
So you don't believe that there are people who are going to vote because they want to see the first black prime minister in Canada. There are people who want, and some of these fellows also look at, we've looked at your ideology, we've looked at that of this party, we've looked at your manifesto, we looked at this, and they feel that these black men that are here in these various parties, we have seen them and we believe that they can represent us well. But we want to vote for them. Looking at the black community, for example, as a Jamaican, you say Caribbean.
Right.
So, you don't think that the Caribbean votes will be divided? We are in a very civilized nation where ideologies rule, right? I believe that quite well. But I think, I may be wrong, so I want to prove me wrong. So we cannot also rule out the fact that there is community.
No. There's community. There's right.
Community.
Yeah.
So, if the same community that is not also large numerically, when you check the percentage of the other races that we have in the nation of Canada, and the vote from that community is divided. Oh, I love Frank. I also love Carlton.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have 2 votes.
Right.
I have 1.
Right.
I would love to see a black,
right,
for the first time.
Yeah.
Don't you think some people will hold back their votes and say, okay, let me just relax because I love these 2 men. They are don't you think that will happen? Voter apathy, if you don't see that at all?
I hope not.
You hope?
Yeah, I hope not. And I'm going to tell you why. Prince, we have to, I want people to vote for this party because of what we're going to bring to the table, not because I'm black.
Okay.
Not because I am of a minority race. This party will be a party for all Canadians. And people, I am encouraging people to get informed. I mean, okay, so let us say that it's Frank and I. Look at what Frank is offering and look at what I am offering.
Okay.
And then make your choice. It's so...
Canadians, we heard that.
Yes, yeah, make your choice. Don't vote for me because I'm black. No. We have to... What is important is making yourself an informed voter.
So if you don't receive support from the black community, you don't have issues with that?
I am confident that I will be receiving a lot of support from the black community. I'm confident I will be receiving support from the white community. I'm not gonna parse this thing into black, white, community by community, because we are all striving for the same thing.
Okay.
We all look at the price of food, and I really want to get to our manifesto because
Please, let's get there.
Right,
Talk
absolutely, and I need to get this in.
Talk to us.
So, the leader of the opposition, Prince, talk about this election will be a carbon tax election. Let me look in my camera. A carbon tax election? Really? Really? And I'm going to say, really? What we need? Yes, I will admit that a carbon tax reduction or elimination. And first, I don't think, well, I know they cannot eliminate the carbon tax because we are part of the G7, and we have to deal with the climate issue, and the carbon tax has effect on our economy and the climate issue and all of that, and the raise in the climate. But so you can't eliminate it. So don't be fooled. But yes, you can adjust it. And yes, if you adjust the carbon tax, yes, it's going to cause the price of food to go down, and because it's tax on gas, right? So if the price of gas go down, everything else will follow as well. But a carbon tax election, this is the problem that Canadians have been facing for the last 158 years. These career politicians, they have their team and they just figure out what to make people feel good and win an election. And that's it. We, as a new party, we are proposing a comprehensive review of the tax system. That's what we are proposing, not just carbon tax, because carbon tax alone is not a problem. Canadians are paying too much income tax. Companies are paying corporation. The tax on corporation is too high. And I want to say this. The capital gains tax that your Liberal Party introduced, we're going to roll it back. We have to roll that back. So we are saying that we are looking at a comprehensive tax structure. Our taxes in Canada, it hasn't been reformed for the last 100 years. So to say a carbon tax election, come on. I'm just hoping Canadians are not fooled by and in fact, I just found recently that the Conservative Party, they are changing now from this carbon tax election because Mr. Donald Trump is out to make us the 51st state. So their slogan now is Canada First. So they just blow at the wind. It is sad, but this is what Canadians have been facing for the last...
just response to the situation at hand.
Right. And not only that, but they mislead Canadians. They have these strategic people that do feel good. I am not going to come here and make any outlandish promise. But what I know is that we're going to do the right things for Canadians.
Okay, because of time, so can you hit us on with the manifesto? Is that all?
Right. Well, this is just a listing. So, as I said, the first thing that we have to address is a complete reform of the tax system.
Completely on the tax
Yeah,
system, okay.
not just carbon tax. We're looking at student loan debt forgiveness,
Holistically.
right? Affordable housing. The next thing that we have to introduce is livable wages, right?
Living wages.
Livable wages,
Livable wages.
not minimum wage, right? We have to look at the rights of the indigenous people, right? The indigenous people have been taken for granted for too long. And of course, we are proposing a corporate tax cut, seniors' health, immigration, which is a big thing, artificial intelligence, and regulation of the commercial banks. And my heart is broken by a story from one single mother who told me that she paid $50 for a NSF, a return check, right? $50. Under the United Progressive Party of Canada, no bank in Canada will charge a hardworking Canadian $50 for an NSF. It can't be more than $10. And our government sit back and allow these banks to abuse our citizens. And I want to touch on immigration. The Liberal Party
That's part of your manifesto?
Yes. The Liberal Party has caused chaos to our country with the immigrants that they brought in. 1.9 million new immigrants, students in 2 years. And now you're saying it is going to be adjusted down to 200,000.
So what will your party do?
Well, stay tuned. But what I can tell you is that what I know, and I've read a report from a security expert and this guy talks about this 1.9 million people that they brought in 2 years. There's no way they could have screened them properly. Hence, you see what is happening in Brampton? They're bringing drugs. They're breaking into people's houses. They are shooting. They're literally street gunfight in Canada. That's not going to happen.
I wish we have more time to discuss on most of these now. So if that's all you have on your manifesto, I would want to put 3 questions straight to you.
Right.
So we can wrap up with that. Now, you talked about the indigenous community,
right,
as part of what you have in your manifesto.
Right.
So what specifically are you going to do?
Right.
Now, the issue of the tariff and US and Canada challenge presently,
right,
what are you going to do? And lastly, how would you deal with accountability in leadership in Canada? So these 3, if you can hit me with this straight. I just have about 2 minutes.
So let's talk about the elephant in Canada right now, which is this tariff thing. And Prince, Donald Trump called these 2 leaders governors. I will be a prime minister. I'm not a governor. So as a prime minister, I will just look at the Donald and I said, cut it out. I can end this tariff thing in 24 hours. Cut it out, Donald. The Donald do not want a serious Jamaican in his back. He doesn't want that. So I can bring this tariff issue to an end in 24 hours.
How would you do that?
I can bring it to an end in 24 hours, right? Because you have to approach these issues from a position of strength, not a position of weakness. I look at.
But I
listen,
think
for the last.
Canada has responded.
Yeah.
Strongly. Don't you think so?
No, they have responded in kind. So first and foremost, I do not believe that we're going to have any tariff. I really don't, right? However, yes, we know that recently they talk about the tariff on steel, but the all about tariff on all goods, I do not believe that's going to happen. Number one, but you have to respond not in kind, but in strength. So, one thing I would do is if as someone that grows and was raised in a inner city community, one thing we do not take very well is threat. Where I come from, Prince, if you threaten someone, that's it. You don't deal with threat. I want to say this. So, what I'm saying is that if you threaten us with tariff and waiting 30 days to implement it, I would have implemented the tariff right away. I would have implemented tariff on you right away. And next thing we need to do, we need to strengthen our army. This Prime Minister canceled the F-35 fighter jets. And now they reordered it, and it's going to take years to be delivered. We commit $13 billion to the Ukraine war, right? And we're not buying our fighter jets. And this is what we get from the U.S. as their thank you for assisting them in the Ukraine war. We have squandered 158 years of relationship with what is happening now.
We might not be able to touch on the last question.
Right.
But help me close with this. In less than 60 seconds, what would you do for the indigenous community from your manifesto?
The indigenous community are facing different challenges. And I believe that the successive government have just pandered to this community. We intend to look, they don't have proper drinking water, and this is Canada that has the biggest water reserve in the world, and the indigenous people don't have proper drinking water. Did you know that in the north, a head of lettuce is like $11-12? Why don't we have a greenhouse up there? I know when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister, I know they tried to implement something like that. The indigenous community, they are starving. Come on, and they're the founders of this country. Well, we can do better than that.
Thank you so much.
There have been so many promises, and we're not going to make promises. We are going to provide action, and we can make history together.
United Progressive Party will not make promises that they will not keep.
Right, absolutely, we won't.
Thank you so much. On that note, we will bring this to a close today, and we look forward to another opportunity to discuss further, because there's quite a lot to address.
Unwrap.
And so time is of the essence, and so we are glad that you're here today.
Right.
And we look forward to another opportunity to discuss them with you.
I really appreciate you inviting us here, and continue to do the community work that this group is doing. It's really appreciated, and we note it with that you guys are having great success. But I want to look at my Canadians. Let's make history together. We will be the first party that is relatively new that will win a major election in anywhere in the world. Thank you for your support, and stay tuned.
Thank you so much, viewers, for staying with us. We appreciate your time. So you have a great day ahead of you. Thank you.
This is Community Circle.